I have passed the torch to the younger lion. I wish from the bottom of my heart he continues to carry this torch for a long time and is very successful just like I was. Joshua is capable of unifying the division. Absolutely. I'd say the more Joshua shines, the better I shine. If I lost, I want to make sure I lost to the better man. It was an incredible fight. We both had fun. The fans had fun. It was win-win for all of us. It doesn't feel like a loss. I won a lot of respect that I never had even when I won my world titles. My ego wanted to win, but to experience what I did, I wouldn't change the end result. It opened doors and made my sporting life more colorful. Those are the words of Wladimir Klitschko talking about passing the torch to Anthony Joshua. He touched on some things there which other people have spoken about, and I certainly agree when it comes to Klitschko gaining redemption and defeat. The commentators were speaking openly about this. During Wladimir Klitschko's reign, a double reign as heavyweight champion, he had a reign when he was WBO champion, which ended when he lost to Corey Sanders. He came back. Then he had a reign from, well, he lasted about 10 years. I guess it was from the was it Sam Peter fight or the Chris Bird fight? I can't remember which it was now. But yeah, he had a second reign as heavyweight champion. And he showed a lot as a fighter. He showed improved technique. He showed improved stamina, tactical acumen. Even towards the end of that reign, he showed more aggression. He wasn't as cautious, particularly after Manny Stewart died. That seemed to change something in Wladimir, almost as if the spirit of Manny Stewart was living through him, and he no longer needed to be shouted at to step on the gas and actually take guys out of there. So he showed everything during his reign, but the one thing he didn't show is true fighting heart and fighting instinct. Up until he fought Anthony Joshua, Wladimir Klitschko had never come through a dogfight and won. In fact, he'd never really participated in a dogfight. And what I mean by participated is he was dragged into deep waters. He was dragged into a tear-up by Ross Purity. He was dragged into a tear-up by Lamont Brewster in the first fight. He was dragged in, I don't want to say to a tear-up, but Sam Peter in the first fight attempted to drag Wladimir Klitschko into a tear-up. So these are guys who tried to engage Klitschko in a tear-up, but Klitschko didn't really participate in that tear-up. He tried to box and stay out of the way. It only worked against Sam Peter, against Purity and against Brewster. Even though he tried to stay out of the way and not get dragged in, he ended up getting, dragged in, and he capitulated fairly quickly once those guys got him in their wheelhouse. Against Joshua, he got dragged into a tear-up and he reacted in a way that he's never reacted before. You look at him against Sam Peter when he gets dropped. He was scared against Sam Peter. I maintain that he wasn't really hurt when he went down against Sam Peter. He went down more from being afraid of what was coming rather than what had actually happened. And he just wanted to get a respite. Against Joshua, in that same situation in the 5th round, he got dragged in to deep waters. He ended up on the canvas, but mentally he didn't react in the same way. This time it was different. This time, for the first time in Klitschko's career, he dug in and he said, you know what? If you want to go toe to toe, let's do it. I've never seen Klitschko really do that before. Now, some people could say he did that maybe a little bit against Pulev. Again, the Pulev fight was kind of a boxing match. It wasn't really a tear-up. It was more of a boxing match where Klitschko was the better technical guy and he was able to land them lead left hooks and whatnot. But against Joshua, it was a legit tear-up in that 5th round. And Wladimir, after so many years, having not shown this quality, he eventually showed that true warrior spirit. He eventually showed that, you know what, I can go toe-to-toe with somebody in a crisis situation. And he nearly pulled it around by going toe-to-toe. If Klitschko has any regrets in his career, maybe that might be one of them, that he didn't show that kind of will earlier on in his career. It might have got him through certain fights. It might have allowed him to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat in certain fights if he'd showed that kind of will, where, you know, normally he would have capitulated in situations like he was in that 5th round with Joshua. This time he came out swinging. He said, "Come, let's do it. Let's go blow for blow." He didn't even try hold hardly in that 5th. He was swinging for the fences. And that was the only way he was going to survive it, to be honest. Because by swinging for the fences, he caught Joshua with some big left hooks and whatnot. And that was able to keep Joshua off him. And he was actually on top towards the end of that round. So that was something he had lacked throughout his whole career until he fought Joshua. In that fight, he showed it. And maybe that's his journey. From a philosophical point of view, maybe that's what Wladimir was searching for within himself throughout his whole career. That warrior spirit. Maybe that's why he carried on so long. Because that warrior spirit was the key to winning the admiration of the fans and the admiration of critics alike. Maybe that's what his journey was all about. Anyway, as far as what he said about passing the torch on to Anthony Joshua, it was clear from when they sparred, when Joshua was in Klitschko's camp, that there was a lot of mutual admiration there. And Klitschko said from then that Joshua would basically be the torchbearer. I think he said for British boxing at the time. But given the fact that British boxing is really the home of world heavyweight boxing at the moment, the center of it anyway, you can pretty much say that he was saying Joshua would be the torchbearer for boxing in general in the heavyweight division. And he also said that the better Joshua does, the better it reflects on him. And that's the same situation with kind of like Vitaly Klitschko, Vladimir's brother. When he fought Lennox Lewis, he gave Lewis a tough fight. Even though he lost, it was memorable. And a lot of people wished that there was a rematch and whatnot. At the time, it wasn't really regarded as a particularly good performance by Lewis. But as time's gone on and we saw how good Vitaly Klitschko became and how dominant he was, on reflection, you realize that was actually a good performance by Lewis. Even though he was coming to the end of his career, he'd been out the ring a year and he was not in the greatest of shape. If you look at what Vitaly did since then, you realize, wow, Lewis was the only guy who was actually able to give him a real fight. So the better Vitaly did, the better it reflected on Lewis. Similarly with Joshua here, the better he does in his career, the better it's going to reflect on Wladimir. Because if no one else is able to drag Joshua into such a tough fight as Wladimir did, then it speaks volumes for Wladimir. At the same time, you have to bear in mind that fighters do improve. Joshua will improve from the Wladimir fight, I'm guessing. He probably will. And therefore, maybe some people will say, well, Joshua hasn't peaked yet, so you can't really say that the Klitschko fight, you can't really read too much into the way he performed there. So, I understand that. But when you look in the record books in history, again, if Joshua goes on to be dominant and doesn't really have a fight as tough as the Klitschko fight, it will reflect well on Wladimir Klitschko. What do you guys think? Will Joshua become the dominant heavyweight in the division, unify the division, and reign for many, many years? A lot of people have been saying this for a long time. Me personally, I don't think so. I do not think this is going to be an era where we have one dominant champion. Those of you who have been subscribed to me for any length of time will know that I've been saying this for a while. That this era is going to be more like the 90s or the 70s, two golden eras in heavyweight boxing, where the heavyweight titles will be changing hands quite frequently. And we won't get one standout guy who just demolishes everybody. We won't get that. We're going to get a round robin type situation. That's what I believe will happen here. And that's why I believe we're in a new golden era of heavyweight boxing. Not to say that the guys today are any better or any worse than they were in previous golden eras. That's not why I class it as a golden era. I class this era as a golden era because of the fact that it will be a round robin situation. It won't be like the Klitschko era was, or like the Tyson era was, when there was one guy dominating. No, those are not classed as golden eras. Golden eras are where it's highly competitive, where there's a lot of drama, where there are intense rivalries and great fights. That's what I believe this era in heavyweight boxing will be. So yeah, anyway, drop your comments in the comment section below. Let me know how you feel about everything I've raised in this video and the quote from Wladimir Klitschko. All right, it's happening. I'm out.